Hedgehog Hollow. Thanks for joining me again here at the Crafters Workshop. Now, I was busy engrossed in making a project this evening for my normal blog post here at the Crafters Workshop when I realised I do a lot of these things with modelling paste and gessos that I maybe necessarily haven't explained to you. And I had the same realisation with hybrid inks the other day. You may have seen my little educational video on that I published yesterday. That was all about why I converted about 18 months ago to hybrid inks. Now, the reason I've started to have these realizations, if you watch Hedgehog Hollow regularly, you'll know my assistant Kelly has never made a card until she joined us here at the Hollow, but she's absolutely loved picking it all up. But I do lots of things and she'll often say to me, why do you do that? You never explained why. So I'm trying to go back, and this, when I was playing with the modelling paste, the new, like the copper pennies and the golds and the beautiful champagnes and things that are in the range, and I was also playing with some gesso, I realised I've never shared lots of those tips with you. So for us non-traditional mixed media types who maybe like to add some more altered elements to our cards, or maybe you're just venturing into the world of mixed media, I hope this will be a really useful little video for you. So let's talk first of all about the difference between modelling paste and gesso. So modelling paste is light and fluffy, or it can be a little bit heavier. So the coloured ones are a bit creamier and thicker, but if you think of it a bit like spackling, so this is my light and fluffy. It's like a really stiff meringue, so you can see it goes backwards and forwards. I could easily spread it through a stencil and it would give me dimension onto my cards, and I've lots of tutorials where I've done that. Check some out on this channel. I will pop some up in this right hand corner as we go through the video about different things that I'll be telling you about as well. I also always keep these little white bits and I pop them back on top. I just find my things seem to last a little bit longer. I don't know if it helps with maybe sealing it in, and always screw those lids on tightly. If you have any issues unscrewing the lids, just give it a tap on your workspace. Just go around, give it a tap, you'll find it'll come loose much easier. Gesso is a lot thinner. Think of this more like an acrylic paint texture. So I'm just opening this one up. So this is the gold gesso. So you can see it's far more like a paint thickness. It's gonna go all over the place. It's great for adding texture to backgrounds. We can add colours. We could do all sorts of fun things with it. And I recently did a great card with gesso underneath and then put acrylic paints over the top. Now, if you're working with gesso, you absolutely can still work with a stencil. So I just picked up this layering floral stencil from the Crafters Workshop. Whenever I'm working with modelling paste or gesso, my favourite types are either using some Bristol Smooth cardstock, or if you don't have any of that in your collection, grab your watercolour paper. On one side, you'll have a great texture, but if you turn it over, you'll probably find most of them are really smooth. But because it's watercolour paper, you can throw lots of amazing elements at it. So if I wanted to work with gesso through a stencil, let's take this lid off. If I try to pick this up with my palette knife and spread it through, it's just going to mush straight underneath. And that might not be the technical term, but it's definitely a very descriptive term. It's just going to go underneath and it's going to flood your stencil. If you have a beautiful colour of gesso, and there are some gorgeous ones out there, or the shimmery ones the Crafters Workshop make, you can make this into something that you can make a 3D element with. If you take some light and fluffy modelling paste, or any modelling paste you might have, white works the best, just like that. Grab some of that gesso, and you can start mixing it in. Now, of course, it's going to be a little bit lighter because of that white colour of the modelling paste it's going to pick up, but you've still got all of that shimmer. So that's still a little bit of that gold tone, and I could just keep adding and adding until I have the gold tone that I want. Obviously, you don't want to add too much because it will go back to thinning that modelling paste down. But if you want to pick out that shimmer, and you still want some really thick texture in there, and maybe you don't have any coloured modelling paste in the right colour, or either in your collection at all, then that would definitely work for you. So just do that. You can pick that up and we can spread it through a stencil as we normally would. You can also paint with gesso. Grab a paintbrush. These are the Mod Podge ones. You could also stipple with it. They work really well if you stipple. Of course, you could put some modelling paste down and then paint over the top of it. That would absolutely work as well. So if I'm going to be using gesso on my cards, I would ideally like to mix it with some modelling paste to really thicken it up. If I particularly want to use it through a stencil, I would try with a paintbrush. You're probably going to get a better effect. Less is definitely more. Do a few thinner layers, because otherwise you get this splodge underneath. So I've mushed it through by putting too much on, whereas here on the M of the, I think it says mood, maybe it says bold, I'm not quite sure. It says, you can see that this first bit where we used the modelling paste in it didn't smish the same way as when I painted through with quite a lot on my brush. If I have less on my brush and then I lift this up over here, you see that works much, much better. However, you can get the best of both worlds and you don't have to do any mixing. I'm just trying to get my little lid back on here. Always try to put your lids back on as quickly as you can. It will extend the life, I find. I mean, I've had these nearly a year now. I use them all the time, still plenty left. And of course you will get it on your fingers. Just keep some kitchen towel to hand. And again, the same with that light and fluffy modelling paste. However, let's have a look at something that offers you a bit of everything. So the Crafters Workshop at Creativation this year came out with coloured modelling paste that have beautiful metallics. There's champagnes and silvers, but I absolutely love copper penny. I have a real soft spot for copper in general. So this is a full shiny. So you look how much shine is, if I put that down there, you can see how much shine is in that modelling paste, and it's got that modelling paste texture. You can see it's like a stiff meringue. So if you can do this with it, you know that you're going to be fine to put it through a stencil. Think of it as I say, your meringue. So I can just take it with my palette knife, lift up my stencil, and I've perfect lines. You could paint with it, there's no need to unless you particularly wanted to, or maybe you wanted to add some accents on. You could add it with your finger if you wanted a really light touch through it. You could mix, so I'm not going to be able to line this up perfectly again, but you could add a little bit of everything. So you could do like sort of ombre effects by adding different colours through them. So you can see there, you can kind of lighten and darken. So if you wanted a slightly lighter shade of copper, or maybe a more muted copper, then add some of that white, light and fluffy modelling paste to it. And you can see there how it's just kind of faded out from a really dark to a nice light copper shade there as well. Cleanup wise, I just use a baby wipe or some soapy water, kitchen towel first to take the worst off. On my glass mat, just pick it up, put it in the bin. I have to say it wipes off fine with a baby wipe. If you really left it, grab a razor blade or a scraper and it will come off absolutely fine. Wash your paintbrushes again just with some warm water. This is a beautiful stencil, I should mention. This is called the Floral Builder from the Crafters Workshop. The idea being that you can lay this stencil down and then you can add these 2 steps of highlights, and these little triangles show you where to layer it up. So on the first layer you get a triangle, then you line that same triangle up here, and then you line the same triangle up here, and you will then make sure everything layers perfectly. So I hope you've enjoyed this little quick snippet from the holo here, and I hope I've given you some great tips to be using with modelling paste and gessos. If you have any other questions, do leave those in the comments. I'm always happy to pop back. We do try to answer as many comments as we can. Thanks so much for joining us here today at the Crafters Workshop. Don't forget to check back soon for some more inspiration. We'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video or found it useful. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button or stamp it if you prefer. I'll see you again very soon. Happy stamping! Bye!